So my name is Kaz. I'm from Oceans Legacy, New Zealand. The mothership, Oceans Legacy, is based in Australia, and we are very much specialized in lure fishing, particularly in slow pitch jigging, and that's what we have been promoting in New Zealand. And also we have been doing lots of seminars and workshops nationwide, normally in conjunction with tackle stores, or recently fishing charter boat as well. But in this video we're going to cover off the basic slow pitch 101 and talk about the concept of it, what it is, and what gear to use, and how to actually fish with slow pitch. We're going to show you the actual techniques, and hopefully we can get some fish as well. We've been successfully reintroduced slow pitch jigging into New Zealand, and it's becoming more popular style of lure fishing. We continue to be leading the slow pitch market. We want to not only supply the quality gear, but also we want to make sure that the people understand how to use it, do the proper techniques as well, and that's what we are very passionate about. So in terms of gear, there are quite a few different sort of styles of gear available these days, but I want to cover the basic sort of setup for slow pitch. And when I say basic setup, I'm talking about fishing in 40, 50, 60 meter of water in New Zealand. Okay, so main target species would be snapper, kingfish, kahawai, John Dory, gurnard, blue cod. Now what I've got here is called an Origin Longfall. Show you the brand. It's a 7'3" in length, PE2 size, and you can fish between 80 gram to 300 grams. So it's got quite a wide range of jig size, and it's quite long compared to other slow pitch rods. This is one of the very finesse style slow pitch jigging rods available from Oceans Legacy. And the beauty about this is that because it's long, you can actually lift really high and do a proper long fall style slow pitch jigging. In terms of reel, we use overhead reel because that's more versatile, and you can actually get in contact with the line and the lure better than the spinning reel. The size wise, the 1000 or 1500, that sort of size, it's perfect. And as long as you can spool 200 meter plus of PE2, and that's a perfect reel. Drag 5 kilo, 7 kilo plus, yeah, that works. Doesn't have to be really heavy gear, so we tend to use a very light gear. The lighter the gear, the better it is, because then you can fish all day. Imagine you're working the jig all day, using the heavy gear, you get tired straight away. So yeah, better to use the lighter gear. In terms of line, I've got PE 1.5 today. It's about 28 pound breaking strain, so it's pretty strong. PE 1.5 is no longer 15 pound these days, just so you know. A lot of people still get confused, but PE rating normally shows the diameter of the PE. That's not the actual strength, okay? Like I said, I've got PE 1.5, actual breaking strain is 28 pound. The leader, I've got a 30 pound leader on. And that's my normal setup. I'm gonna show you how to rig my terminals. Here I've got a newly announced grommet with a single ring. So single ring makes it more usable because you can attach these pre-made assist hooks. They come with the solid ring anyway, so you don't have to have more than one ring with the grommet. Okay, I will show you how to attach all these. So I'm going to start with the grommet. The easiest one is to just put the line through and do a simple uni knot. Okay, that's probably the easiest way to rig it. And there are many other styles you can do here, but this is probably the most basic one. With it, pull it, and then you can use those pliers and tighten it like this. Yeah, so it's nice and tight. And why do we use grommet? And it's because if you're tying directly to the solid ring, sometimes solid ring is too sharp for the line and it cuts the line. And it doesn't happen often, but having a grommet is much safer. And I do a couple alternating half hitches there just to give you extra protection, and it's more secure. And if you want to, you can do the finishing knot and tie like this. And then after the grommet to the side ring, I put one split ring on. And it's important that you have a good split ring pliers so you can actually open the split ring easily. And that's one of the examples from Oceans Legacy. We've got a really premium pliers. So it's got a nice sort of edge on the top and actually opens the split ring like this. And then you can have the hook or jig, whichever first, whichever you like. And so the hook is on, and to the same split ring I'm going to attach the jig. Okay. So yeah, it goes like that. So you have the leader, grommet, solid ring, split, and a hook down below, and the jig eye. Okay. And also one more set of hooks goes onto the rear of the jig. And it's important for slow pitch to have two sets of hooks, one on each side. So that's how I rig it. Okay. So we've got two sets of hooks hanging on the side of the jig. And the reason why we do this is because it actually stabilize the jig action. So slow pitch jigging is all about falling, the jig falling and making it look like a wounded bait. When it's falling down, the jig is always, moving sideways. Yeah, it doesn't go this way or that way, it goes sideways. Yeah, so it's important that you cover the both ends because you may get a hit from this side or maybe this side. Either side can be the head of the bait which your target species will attack. Also, having the same hooks on both ends will stabilize the jig actions. They almost work like a parachute. So these are the two reasons why we have two hooks. That's how we rig. So have a look at that. Now I'm going to quickly show you the basic slow pitch jigging technique, what we call lift, wind and follow. Lift the rod, wind the reel and follow the slack line. Lift, wind and follow. Drop the jig down and I wait until it hits the bottom. As soon as it hits the bottom, we're going to do lift, wind and follow. So now it hits the bottom, so go lift, half wind, follow the slack line. Left, half wind, follow the slack line. Left, wind, follow the slack line. Just like that. Right, so the next technique is called a long fall. Long fall is basically you're lifting the rod really up high and letting the jig fall longer time. Okay, so lift high and drop the jig down all the way down to the surface. Lift the rod, drop it down, lift the rod and drop it down. You can wind half or quarter every time you lift, and that means you can actually search through the more water columns. So big lift and drop it down. So the next technique is called hovering or walk the dog. Basically you are keeping the rod nice and still horizontally and using the reel to wind the line. So I'll show you this technique. I'm going to do half wind each time. So what it's doing under the water is the jig is actually moving boom, 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 boom. And it's like a, walk the dog action on the stick biting sort of scene, or jig is almost like a hovering in the water. You can full wind, and if you do full wind, that means jig is actually moving a little bit higher each time. Like this. So another technique is to mix up all these actions. So one action doesn't always entice the bite, so you want to mix different actions. So for example, if I start with lift, wind, follow, lift, wind, follow, lift, wind, follow, all of a sudden I go hover, and big lift again, so it's a long fall, long fall, and back to hover. Because you are enticing the bite by mimicking wounded bait can, move in different ways and does weird actions. So you are trying to combine different actions, find the best action, best combination of actions and techniques that work for the day. The next technique is called a high pitch jigging, which is still part of slow pitch jigging, but it's quite unique. This technique is still very, very niche. You need a little bit heavier setup than the normal slow pitch jig, and because you are actually striking the rod all the time to do this technique. We use this particular jig called long contact. Long contact has a very, very unique action specifically for high pitch jigging. If you want to do high pitch jigging, you want to pick something like this, very slim and still center weighted, but nice long and slim jig. Now I'll show you the action quickly. The jig under the water goes boom, slide to the side and flutter down, big slide and flutter down. So in order for the jig to do that, you want to pick something long, slim and still center weighted, and the rod has to be nice and heavy. So I've got PE3 Elementus, ideally PE4, or you want to go Elementus deep jigging, which is also designed for high pitch jigging. And now I'm going to show you the technique in the water. So again, drop it down to the bottom. The target species for high pitch jigging is mainly kingfish in New Zealand. Overseas, amberjack and many other pelagic species, but in New Zealand mostly kingfish. So it's a great way of targeting kingfish with slow pitch sort of style. So now hit the bottom, so a couple wind, and then what you do is you are actually striking the rod, boom, and wind. So you are hitting the jig really, really hard. Yeah, striking the rod, trying to push the rod away from you, boom. And either half wind or full wind. So this action will make the jig big slide, flutter down, big slide, flutter down. And it's really, really enticing for particularly kingfish in the early morning or late afternoon. So now I'm going to show you the next thing called a SLJ, or super light jigging, or light jigging, LJ. What it is basically you're using very light jig compared to slow pitch jigging in mimicking tiny little bait. The action of this style of jigging is quite wide. So you can do slow pitch jigging, lift a jig and let it flutter, or you can retrieve and pose. You can use either overhead or spin. I like to use spin because you can cast wide, and I like to use a little bit longer rod like this Cloud9 and use 3000, 4000 reel, very tiny, almost like a soft bait setup. So I've got PE 1.2 braid, which is about 22 pound, 20 pound, and I've got 20 pound leader on. Here I've got the hybrid contact 60 gram orange jig with twin assist hooks. I've got a swivel on because with the spinning reel you get lots of coil of the line, so it's better to have a swivel so that the jig doesn't spin as much. The action of SLJ is basically you either drop it down to the bottom vertically or cast wide. With this style I often cast wide because where we normally do slow pitch is 30 plus meter of water and quite a deep, so we want to cast those small jig into the drift, and so it still hits the bottom. For casting, you don't have to go over your shoulder, you can basically lob it into the drift and wait until it hits the bottom, and you work the way up. So I'm waiting for the jig to hit the bottom. Often you put your hand over the spool or over the line so you can actually feel the jig, and as the line stops, that means the jig hits the bottom. So now it's on the bottom, So start winding, and you can do this simple retrieve and pause action. So I'm retrieving now and give it a pause, retrieving, pause. So that's a very simple action. Or you can drop it again, wait until it goes onto the bottom. See the line stops? So it stops now, so that's on the bottom right now. So bail arm up and do a slow pitch action as well. So left, wind and follow. Left, wind and follow. You can even do a mechanical jigging action. And give a long fall, drop it down. So you can literally combine different actions, you know, just to keep enticing the bite. And it's gone back on the bottom now. So I'm going to do a bit of sort of hovering actions. Little twitch. Long left. Drop it down. Long left. Drop it down. So you can do yo-yo as well. Hit the bottom and just do a yo-yo. Like this. So that's yo-yo action. And then I'll just get to the bottom again. And you can also do a slow wind like a kabura fishing as well, if you want to. There are so many actions you can make with this style of fishing, SLJ or LJ, as well as slow pitch. And then at the end of the day, what you want to do is find the best action of the day to get the best fish, or you know, the biggest fish or better fish of the day. Yeah, the main reason is really to match the hatch. We do SLJ, super light jigging, often when slow pitch isn't particularly effective. It works in the morning, maybe stops working during the day, and I switch over to SLJ. And all of a sudden, because jig is so small, so when your target species are feeding on small bait, it can be very, very deadly. All of a sudden, you know, you're catching nothing on slow pitch, and you start catching on SLJ, tiny little jigs immediately. And so that can be very, very effective. And also, you know, using a spin, or if you're capable of doing that, then they use bait caster as well, and cast wide. So you can search wider area. And even if you're using tiny small jigs, like, you know, we go down to 30 gram, you can still hit the bottom because you are lobbing into the drift. Try a different sort of method. You know, the slow pitch for, we would say normally anything over 100 gram. So it's quite a big profile. Whereas SLJ is less than 100 gram, right down to 30 gram. So it covers very, very small bait imitation. Whereas slow pitch can be a little bit bigger profile. So it can be very, very effective, and this style of jigging, SLJ, can be very, very complementary. So this is how Japanese fight with the fish and slow pitch. Winch in the reel. No pressure on the rod, and that's because rod is designed for working the jig and not for fighting the fish. If you try to lift too much, and you may snap it. But we have other rods called Elementus, and you can now use the rod to fight the fish because it's so strong. Still a finesse and still crisp, light enough for slow pitch, but powerful enough to fight the fish with. I might have lost a fish. Oh no, there is still a fish. Just a penny though. No?